All right, welcome back to Waste Some Time with Jason Green. I am Jason Green, excited to have a new season of interviews. Took a little time off, back now. Make sure you subscribe, catch up on what you missed out on. There's a few hundred videos on this channel. If you want to get more involved and you want to support, click on the Patreon link, sign up. You can ask questions of the guests, all kinds of other cool features. Today's guest is amazing guitar player named Jimi Bell. Now, if you've tuned in on this, you're probably already familiar with Jimmy's work. But those who are not, we're going to learn a lot about his career. And it's an interesting one at that. I ran into Jimmy in Des Plaines, Illinois. I was on the road with Stephen Pearcy on his last tour, and the bill was Autograph, Quiet Riot, and Stephen Pearcy. And I was going for a walk outside the hotel, and when I came down to the lobby, I bumped into Jimi Bell, and I said, so I asked him the first question that I'm sure a lot of people thought: who the hell is an Autograph right now? And Jimmy did a very good job of explaining it and some of the history and why the band is at the what it is right now. And he's going to tell us all about some of that too. We're going to talk about why Michael J. Fox was so against him, Joan Jett playing with him in the band The Huns. We're going to get into that. Some of you already know what I'm talking about. Some might not. Auditioning for Ozzy, all kinds of other things. His work creating theme songs for all kinds of industries, including the world, wrestling, entertainment, a lot. We got a lot to get to. So without wasting too much time, we'll be back after this. All right, please welcome Jimi Bell.
How are you, Jason? Hey, everybody.
Good to see you, Jimmy. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad we got to this because that show was a few months back.
Yeah, I'm really excited to be on your show, actually. I was really looking forward to it. I was hoping you would. I've watched a bunch of them, of your shows before, and I was very pleased to be a guest on today. So thank you very much.
Yeah, well, thank you. That means a lot, and I appreciate it. So, I took a little time off. I had to get some skin cancer surgery.
Yeah, I hope you're doing well, my friend. You're in my thoughts. I've had cancer myself, so.
Yeah, I was lucky to have a very treatable cancer, but you understand, and it's good to be back. All of a sudden, I had to go back and go, okay, let me find some of the people that I wanted to have on, and now is my chance. So we're here now, and so I want to get that elephant out of the room, which is Autograph. I am sometimes critical on this show of bands that have one original member, no original members, and the more that we're out on that circuit, you see a lot of them, and some have a good reason, and some might not. But so Autograph is an interesting band. I will point out that I have an interview with Steve Lynch on this channel, and you can watch that interview at the end of this one. And so if you want to hear the history of old school Autograph, Steve is the person to talk to. Touring with Van Halen and all these things. That's all on there. But we want to talk about what's happening with Autograph now. So there are no original members in Autograph.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, we lost Randy in April, and the band, when they got back together in 2013, they went after Simon. They sought him out, and Steve, Randy, and Kenny was alive then when they first got together. And, they absolutely love him. They were looking for something. They were looking for a singer just like him to come into the band and do something, bring new life, bring the whole thing together. I mean, they did approach Steve Plunkett apparently, but, he does so well on with all his other things, he wanted nothing to do. He doesn't want anything to do with Autograph. It's understandable, it's in his past. It's done. It's he did
He's a
what he had to
songwriter.
do.
He's a songwriter primarily, right now.
Yeah, yeah, he does great. He doesn't need the headaches of of what we do. It could be kind of stressful. He doesn't have to do it.
Yeah, so he's done very well. He's written a lot of. I think he does jingles and themes, and he's
exactly.
He's very in demand, and some people, put their band in the past. And like we were saying, sometimes you fly 4 flights to get to some little city. If you don't, it's a labor of love, and if you don't need it, we can understand why he's not there. So they get Simon Daniels, and he had a background, right? He was in some metal bands. I think Jailhouse, is that the band?
Yeah, Jailhouse. They did. Simon's history is great. I mean, I would have to let him tell you all about it, but he's got quite a history himself with record deals and all these other things. But I think Simon's an incredible singer. It was one of the things that I really noticed when I started to go see Autograph, because I was, every time they came to the East Coast, I live in Connecticut, so every time they came around here, I had met Steve back in the 80s. And then when they did a show, I think it was in 2015, a band I was in called Max Explosion, which was 2 members of House of Lords, but it's the rhythm section of House of Lords. But now that rhythm section is actually with Dokken. So the drummer and the bass player are with Dokken now. We opened for them. We're like a power trio type thing, but very melodic rock. And that's where I reconnected with Steve. I met Simon, Randy, and reconnected with Randy because I met the original lineup at NAMM years ago. But so, I started going out and watching the guys more every time they came around. And I really loved what Simon was doing vocally, and I liked the new songs that they were doing. So we all just, we all became friends. And that's how the whole thing kind of happened, is when Steve quit the band in July of 2017. I had already been friends with Randy and Simon. I'm not sorry, not 2019. I had already been friends with Randy and Simon and knew Mark. And I just kind of said, after I read, Steve did a big post of him quitting on Facebook. So I messaged Randy and I said, Randy, I'm sure you're getting 1,000 phone calls right now, but, I'd like a chance to, do the audition. And Randy told me, he says, we got a very little list right now. He says, but I would love to put you on it. And so he gave me 3 songs. And I learned the 3 songs like that. They were I only was going to have to learn 3. They were going to fly me to LA and this. So, and do the audition. So I said, well, give me more. So I ended up learning the whole set along with vocal parts. And I think the guys, saw that I was taking all this, I was going the extra distance, in other words, because I really wanted to do the gig. So basically I was calling Simon, working on vocal parts and everything. By the time I got to LA, I flew with Randy from Atlanta to LA. And when I got there, the very first song we played, they knew I was a guitar player. I mean, I had everything, down pat.
Do you remember what that first song was?
Oh, well, I did it right off I did the whole set. We just ran the whole set. It was Deep End. Yeah. So, and that's what we were opening. Before I even went to LA, Randy called me and just said, look, we're just going to give you the next 3 shows, because they saw I was working so hard, and they already knew I could play because Randy used to look at my videos and everything that I would post on, Facebook. So, by the time I got there, like I said, everything was, very well polished. And right after we played one song, it felt like I had been in the band for years. I mean, it clicked that that incredible. Our harmonies locked in right away. So that was it right from there.
You had very big shoes to fill. Obviously, people know Steve Lynch. I still think he's probably a bit of an underrated player. But as Steve says in my interview, and he approves of your playing and being in the band, and he gives his blessing to it. But yeah, it's big shoes, and I'm sure it was a short list, because to find somebody who can do that well, but also do it authentically, I think is a tough thing. Anyone can learn notes, but to do it well is not so easy.
You know what's great, Jason, about when I joined Autograph? They gave me the freedom to do anything I wanted to do. And the only thing they asked was that I played the Turn Up the Radio solo. And I said, well, you can't change that solo anyway. I said, it's iconic. I go, that would be like insane to even attempt to do that. So that was the only thing they requested that I do. And it was everything else that gave me a lot of room to put my own style. Because here's the thing, my style of guitar playing is different than Steve's. Steve is a lot of tapping, and mine was a lot of alternate picking. So we had two different styles, but even though I tapped, at the time I was just kind of doing it with one finger. Upon joining Autograph now, I ended up doing going into multiple finger tapping, just to accommodate some of the some of the other things that I wanted to do. Like, for example, even though I didn't have to do the solo for Loud and Clear, I wanted to play it. So there's certain things that I wanted to do. So that ended up being a nice learning tool. Something I had never really messed with before was multiple finger tapping. So it was, once again, it was even good for me as a guitar player that's playing a real long time. It just goes to prove you can never stop learning things. So I started messing with that. Now I even do a whole segment in my guitar solo where I'm doing some, multi-finger tapping. So it's been a great asset.
Yeah, we're looking at a picture of the band that you joined. This is the lineup when you joined. Randy Rand, still in the band, obviously alive at this time.
That was one of our first pictures right there. That was at my first gig with the band. Yeah, that was in the parking lot of the first gig in Woodstock, Virginia. That was magical, that show, Jason. I got to tell you, man, it was crazy. I had 3 days of rehearsal with them. We had it down great. But when I got on that stage, it really felt like I had been in that band for years. I mean, the chemistry on that very first gig was magical. And I'm so grateful that there's a gentleman that filmed the whole show. So every time to this day, I use our first show as a practice session before I go out and play with the guys. Like when we have a gig coming up, I'll go to YouTube, pull up my first show, stand up, put the guitar on and play along with it as a warm up,
Yeah, it's a good thing, a good tool to have. In that picture, we see your drummer, Mark. Kenny Richards was an incredibly troubled person.
Yeah.
And Steve talks about that in our interview pretty much at length. They tried many times to incorporate him back in the band, and it did not work out. And unfortunately, he passed, and in pretty crazy circumstances as well. So we understood that the band was continuing at that point. Randy and Steve were the only originals until Steve stepped aside. And I did not, he's working on a book, I believe, and he has other projects he does, but it was ready for him to step aside. So you joined the band, and that lineup went out for a while. You guys were doing it.
I loved, I have to tell you, Jason, Randy and I love that man. I really do. I miss him more than words can say. him and I were so close. I don't know if it was just because he was the one that I spoke to the most when I first joined the band, but we just clicked, him and I. We had this thing, like even on stage, you could see it. Every photo, there's so many photos of Randy and I together on stage, laughing, smiling, and if you watch that video, like I'm talking, you see him and I interacting all the time. And we were like that on stage and off stage. He was an amazing person. And to say that his death affected me is like, honest to God, I think about him every day still. It was a real tough thing for me.
Yeah,
And the fact that he passed so suddenly, that was even more heartbreaking.
Yeah, as you're saying, he tragically passed away at age 62. I believe he had heart problems, is what this was.
Before I joined the band, he had, I think he was a bit older too, but I'm not exactly sure. I want to say closer to 70, but not 70. Mm-hmm. He had a heart problem before I joined the band. Matter of fact, I even saw a post about it on Facebook, and he had I don't know if it was a valve or a stent or something put in, and the guys told me that even though Randy was incredible, they said, I remember Simon saying that he was not, you don't recover from 100% from something like that. You're good, but not 100% from where you were, obviously, because that's a major operation. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, as what I saw in the band, a lot of times I saw Randy ill sometimes, like after shows, not feeling too well. And so I was always a little worried about him. Definitely. But, he always brought it on stage. There was never a time where there was something wrong with him. He always came through 100%, whether he didn't feel good or not. He just, has a great way he had a great way of playing bass too. It was he didn't look like he was playing like hard. He just had this very relaxed thing, but it was thunderous. What he played was just like so good. Like on the new record that we have that's coming out in a week. I just got the promo copies yesterday, a couple of them. He plays so amazing on it. I mean, just like, I miss him terribly.
Yeah, he was 71 years old. There was some reports that were wrong that said 62. Maybe he wanted to seem a little younger. I can't say I blame him, but it's still way too young, even at 71, to pass. It's a great thing though that his music will be remembered on this his final recording with Autograph. And and people can check that record out. At the time of this airing, it'll be available. So I hope, right? It should be out soon.
It comes out November 18th.
Yeah, so people can check that out and enjoy the music. Okay, so we're explaining the history of Autograph, and we're explaining how the lineup is the way it is. When Randy passed, Steve Lynch made a statement that I'm paraphrasing, said, well, the band can continue as an Autograph tribute band, or the band can disassemble. Well, the band is still called Autograph, so tell me what happened.
Well, I look at it like this. Simon's been in the band for a decade. He's been the lead singer. People look at him as the lead singer. That band, he's been in it longer than the original lineup. I look at it like this: every band has has a right to grow and move on. Steve's comment was, I found it a bit disturbing the way he did that, but we're friends, and if he wanted to say something like that, that's on him. But the fact is that he quit the band. He quit. He wasn't fired, and that's just the bottom line.
Was
And
there
the
a
fact
minute?
is
Good.
that, and if you think that we wanted Randy to pass away, that's a whole nother thing. I would do anything to still have Randy going. Is it difficult? Well, Simon's built up quite a fan base for the band. 10 years is a long time. You can't. What are you supposed to do? Just say, okay, well, Randy passed unexpectedly. Okay, guys, it's done. Here, take 10 years of your life and see you later. No, not
Well,
at all.
I don't know if you can speak about it, but how does the name? I'm assuming Randy had the rights to the name Autograph because he was able to continue. It seemed like he continued with the other guy's blessing. When he passes away, two questions. Is there a time where you go, maybe we should call this Autograph 2.0 or Autograph something or break it up? And then there's another part where you go, well, who owns this trademark?
Well, that I can't really talk about, but I do know that Randy did not own it. And although I believe he thought he did, but it wasn't. So right now, there's stuff going on, but it's all good.
Sometimes it's not worth fighting over these things. As we said, Steve Plunkett is very successful. This might not even matter to him.
It doesn't. It really doesn't. He's got something great going on. He doesn't, he has, he wouldn't want to do what, like a lot of this stuff we do. Believe me, it's, I'm 65 years old. It gets to be quite a challenge, trying to catch a plane, you're connecting flight, running through airport. You know what it's like.
I do it. Yeah, I do it every weekend. Snow delays. I'm a little younger, but still, it doesn't. It'll eat you up. So
yeah, it does.
Okay. So it seems like you might have alluded that Steve Lynch has some interest in the name. I don't know.
Steve doesn't. He's got a book coming out. He's basically, he wanted to be out of this situation. So, he was going to start a whole nother project with something else. That's the way it is. These guys have a right to continue. I mean, for me to talk about this, being a guy that's been in the band, right. 3 months, 3 years, 3 months, 4 months, I'm not really the right person to talk about that. Simon would be a great person to give highlight on it.
Completely understand. Yeah, you play the guitar and do your thing, and I understand that the business is not necessarily yours. And
I mean, those guys really deal a lot more with the business end of it, And I mean, all I could tell you is that I'm thrilled to be playing guitar in a band. I love the guys. I respect the old lineup. I respect the old songs. I go out and try to give it 100% all the time, which I do. I go to that stage and want to give the audience and the fans the best possible show that I personally can. And I know the rest of the guys do the same thing. So that's how I look at it. I think every band has a right to grow. There's new music. That's how I look at it.
People want to hear the Autograph music. If the two Steves don't want to play it, and this band, and Simon's been running it for 10 years, it seems like it's something, and fans are enjoying it. The fans will speak at the end of the day. If the fans go see it and the fans buy this new record or stream it or whatever people do these days, then it shows that the demand is there and people want to see it. I know that people are excited nowadays when you go see these shows and these festivals and these lineups. You'd like to see as many things as you can, and sometimes you want to see stuff you weren't as familiar with. So there's a place, and it continues. And right now on bass, and my friend Steve Unger is in the band, and he was formerly from the band Metal Church. And
he's great. He's fun. He's a funny dude. I love him.
Yeah, a real a good guy. And so he's in the band. We're looking at the band now. Mark Wylde has been there, I think, the whole time, pretty much. 2000.
Yeah, Mark came in really quick. I mean, Kenny passed away not too long into the band, and actually, Mark came in before Kenny because I guess they were having a lot of problems with Kenny. Mm-hmm. And so Mark had come in. He's been there almost as long as Simon. You know, like I said, 10 years of people's lives, they've put their heart and soul into this band. And, you know, that's a long time. That's way longer than a lot of marriages last.
Yes, for sure. So this is the lineup that you'll see. There's no pulling punches. No one's pretending you're going to see anyone but the people pictured and the people on that stage. And other than Randy, the people who recorded his final would be his final Autograph album. Okay, so we got through that, and I think the audience, you know, there's some people who weren't familiar with the members of Autograph. There's some people younger people especially, who've been turned on to this band and this lineup. And then there's other people who just wanted to know. So I'm glad you addressed that. And you told me just as well in the hotel. I did come out and see it. It was enjoyable. And I think people will enjoy it. We should be lucky to get to hear any of the music we love. Life is getting short. So
yeah, I mean, look, you know, we play, you know, a decent amount of the old material. There's some of the old songs I love playing. I happen to like playing Blondes and Black Cars. The guy, that's not one of the guy's favorites, but I mean, they like it, but I'm always saying, I dig that song. There's something about it that I like, you know? So, I know they love, Send Her to Me. And, there's All I'm Gonna Take is one that they really like playing a lot too. And those are a lot of fun. But I got to tell you, just talking about the new record for a second with, Simon and I have been doing all the interviews for it. I've never done a record where the people that are interviewing me are telling me that this is one of the best records that they've had, that Autograph has done. And they're also saying that they like every single song on the record. I've never, I've done so many interviews, especially in House of Lords, for the 10 years or the 15 years I've been in that band. For people to actually go out and say that they like every single song. As a matter of fact, a couple of them said that we should be playing every song on a record, which is kind of, for them to say that. I said, oh, that's pretty cool, man. It makes me feel good. Randy's last work. I know he's looking down smiling, The
record is called Beyond. I want to make sure people know that. November 18th, the record is called Beyond.
Yes.
And I didn't mean to cut you off. Yes, absolutely.
No, you didn't. Yeah.
He would be proud as a musician. This is your life's work, and it's meant to be shared.
Yeah, Randy handed in the masters and all the artwork to Frontiers, 2.5 weeks prior to him passing away. So that was very, on one hand, I'm just so thrilled that he was, he got to play on this whole record, and the world is going to get to hear his last performance because it's spectacular. And then on the other hand, you're going like, oh my God, what a sad situation. I would have loved for him to be alive. When Frontier sent me the promotion copies, And I opened the box yesterday. I pulled it out. And I'm just I'm looking up at the sky going, Randy, look at, I just can't even believe you're not present right here to enjoy this. It was heartbreaking all over again.
Yeah, it's one of the things from doing these interviews on this show is every band, every person has these moments, of
Yeah.
tragedies, and it's very rare you find someone who has a story that doesn't have one of these big tragedies. It's fitting that this record is called Beyond,
Yeah.
obviously, and so anyway, everyone should check this out and can keep Randy in their minds and hearts and all those other places. So that's Autograph there, and you'll be on the road this year in 2023. I'm sure I'll be seeing you a bit more. I'm starting to hear a little bit of those rumblings of some shows.
Oh yeah.
So that's good.
We'll run into each other again. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely. But I want to talk a little bit about your past too. I learned to play guitar from a left-handed guitar player, Nick Bocott from the band Grim Reaper.
From Halloween, was it?
Grim Reaper.
Grim Reaper. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Grim Reaper.
And
I remember him.
He was a columnist in Guitar Magazine and Circus Magazine. And
he also worked for Marshall Amps for a while too.
Long time. He was the big guy at Marshall. Yeah.
Yeah.
And anyway, and people said to me, "How do you learn from a left-handed guitar player?" And it's like looking in a mirror, in a sense.
Simplest thing in the world. A matter of fact, I'll tell you, Jason, I can't even look at a left-handed player play. Another lefty player throws me off totally. I'm so used to just looking at a right-handed guitar player. I can figure out what a guitar player is doing if he's right-handed. If a left-handed player is on that stage and I'm looking up to him, I'm going like, I'm all confused, and I'm left-handed. So it's yeah.
You write with your left hand as well, right?
Yes, I do. Just a couple things I do righty. I would bat righty. I would golf righty. If I had to kick a ball, it would be with my left foot. But to throw a ball would be with my right hand. So I'm not 100% where I can't do anything, but all the major things, playing guitar and writing. And of course, being a lefty, when you write out checks, you get the ink all across your hands and everything. It's beautiful.
A little bit, yeah. Mm-hmm. Tell me about when you decide, your first guitar and learning how to play.
Well, like I said, I'm 65 years old. I was a drummer. I played a lot of instruments all through my early days, elementary school and junior high, and I played the big stand-up bass in the orchestra. And I never got great on it because I was right-handed, and I didn't realize that I was left-handed. In other words, I had a guitar still, and I held that left-handed, but I didn't make the connection that, geez, I should be playing stand-up bass left-handed too. So I played that, and then I became infatuated with drums. And my parents, there was always music going on in the house, but I grew up listening to big band music, like from the big, like Glenn Miller, Benny Goodman. And I became very much infatuated with Gene Krupa, a legendary jazz drummer.
Yeah, for sure. And
I actually have a picture of Gene and me. I got to meet Gene Krupa before he passed away in the early 70s. And it's unbelievable to have met that gentleman. But so I was jamming with Guy. I was in junior high. I had the drum set here, right in this basement, actually. And high school guys would come over. So one day, the guys went home, and the guitar player just left his guitar out, didn't put it in a case, left it against the amplifier. And he had an old 1970s Big Muff fuzz box. So after he left, I picked up his guitar, held it, he was a righty, but I held it upside down, turned his amp on and turned that fuzz box on. And I hit a low E note on it and started making some sounds with the fuzz. And I just lost my mind. I said, oh my God, this is what I want to play. I don't want to play drums. I said, I love this, and I actually had a drum scholarship from the Hartford Conservatory of Music. I dropped my scholarship instantly and got a guitar and never stopped. This was, you know, at the age late 13, almost 14 years old. And I practiced that guitar day, night. I didn't have, I never went out on the weekends. I would play guitar nonstop all the time. And I excelled really fast on a guitar because I just played it so much. But, you know, as a young guitar player back then, there was no computers, obviously. So you couldn't go to YouTube and watch 1,000 guys play something note for note. If you wanted to learn it, I had to use my ear. I had to keep putting the record back, you know, or slow the record. I tried slowing it down to speed 16 because the old record players had a 3-speed thing, you know. But I was infatuated with Johnny Winter. He's a blues guitarist, but he played really fast as well. He had a lot of fast chops, and that's what caught my ear, was a lot of the fast stuff. Then I became a huge fan of Ritchie Blackmore, and that changed my life. And then I discovered Al Di Meola, jazz guitarist. And I took Johnny Winter, Ritchie Blackmore, and Al Di Meola and kind of crushed them together and created my style from that. And then later, Eddie Van Halen came onto the scene. And then I started, you know, bringing on some of the tapping things. But even when Eruption first came out, I'll tell you really quick, I knew what Eddie was doing because I saw Rick Derringer do a two-handed tapping thing where he was playing and tapping with one finger. I saw him do it at a gig. And then when I heard Eruption, I said, there's no way that this guy's playing this by picking or anything. I said, this is one of those finger things. I had figured out that end part of Eruption way before anybody else even knew what it was. And I played it live and people lost their friggin' minds, man. It was just so funny to see that I learned it that quick. That, you know, that two-handed tapping part. It was, you know, it was pretty funny. But yeah, you know, so that's my my early days. And you know, there wasn't much for guitars that I was able to get because I was a lefty. My uncle worked for Ovation, so I had an Ovation acoustic. I strung lefty. Then he got me a lefty Ovation electric, and that was kind of basically my whole thing until I was able to get my first Stratocaster down in New York City at Manny's Music.
Manny's Music. That's where my first guitar came from as well. And
oh, awesome!
And I think many legends, Johnny Ramone, and I think everybody went to Manny's. Sadly, not there on 48th Street.
Yeah, Jimi Hendrix. I've seen Hendrix had posted. There were receipts from him buying guitars at Manny's. Classic.
I saw that receipt at one point. They had a facsimile on the wall of it, and signed pictures of Jimi Hendrix. Pretty amazing.
That whole street was. I mean, you had Sam Ash. We Buy Guitars. Everything was right there. All next to each other too. Great.
It was this one block, you know, for those watching who weren't from the East Coast of New York City, this one block, 48th Street, Radio City Music Hall was just down the way. 30 Rock was where they filmed SNL and things was the other side. And this amazing block. And on any given day, you would see very famous musicians. You know, George Lynch would be going into the ESP shop that was there, or whoever. But everybody, it was almost a place to be seen. But everybody went to those things. So it's fitting that your first guitar comes from Manny's. So a left-handed guitar, though, right?
Yeah, I got my first left-handed Strat because. As I said, I was a huge Ritchie Blackmore fan, and I saw that he had a lefty Strat. And, you know, walking into Manny's and seeing a sunburst lefty with a maple neck on it, you know, I said, this is it. And they were cheap back then. You know, we're talking the 70s. I think I only paid like $270, you know, almost $300 for it. But, you know, if you think about what a 70 Strat would go for now, it's ridiculous. And those were the worst Strats because that's when they only did 3 bolts as opposed to the 4-bolt thing. They did a 3-bolt pattern holding the neck on. And the And I remember the pockets were kind of sloppy. Like a lot of times when I took the guitar out of the case, it would be out of tune. And if you took the neck and just kind of pulled it a little bit, then it would come back into tune because, if the bolts loosened slightly, the neck would just shift around because the pocket wasn't tight that it was sitting in.
Yeah, it's we've come a long way, but you made the best out of that instrument, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So I like to look at your career as a little bit as you were sort of a hometown hero. People in town knew who you were, but I felt like maybe you were, some of the bands joined forces. You were playing, but it felt like you were always just almost at getting that step of getting out of town, and we'll talk about some of those things that happened. I want to we got to talk about the movie Light of Day.
Yeah.
Because it's funny as I tell people, and this is almost a forgotten movie to some, or to some like me who watch it. You remember this, Michael J. Fox and Joan Jett, and people say, "What are you talking about, Joan Jett?" Michael J. Fox starring in a movie, and some people would say this is a terrible movie. Other people have a connection to it. It's an interesting movie. This is 1986, at least the release is 1986.
Yeah,
and
that was great, man.
And so we're going to talk about your role in this, which is actually a really key role in the movie. I would say one of the more memorable scenes in this movie is your scene. But basically, I'm going to paraphrase it real quick. Michael J. Fox and Joan Jett are brother and sister. They live together. She's a single parent raising her kid. And they have a band together, and it's a little Spinal Tap-ish at times. Band doesn't work out, and to make some money, Joan Jett's going to join a heavy metal band, and Michael J. Fox does not approve. The band is called the Huns, right?
Yes, that was the title that they gave us.
Yeah, right. And you are the lead guitar player for the Huns. And one of the most memorable things, and people can go on YouTube and watch it, or just watch the whole movie, is how much shredding you do, and you got some big hair and some big shredding, and you stand out. And I think that's probably what they asked you to. We'll find out in a moment. But Michael J. Fox comes into the bar, and boy, is he upset that that his sister is playing in this terrible, or I don't mean terrible musically, but this heavy metal band. And anyway, so yeah. I got to know how you get involved in this movie.
Well, here the band joined forces that you were talking about before. We got hooked up with a gentleman that worked for Joan Jett. He worked with her camp. He worked for Blackheart Records, which was part of Lieber and Krebs. He had an office up there, I believe, where Lieber and Krebs' office was, but in the city. Lieber and Krebs was big, huge management back then. So what happens is this guy takes an interest in us, and he's starting his own management company, and he's partnered with a guy that owns a fleet of tour buses. This guy's buses went out with Motley Crue. I mean, everybody. This is the guy that had the tour buses. So we have a 3-song cassette. That's all we had. And Joan Jett was doing an East Coast tour, and they threw us on the tour. They said, we're gonna put you on this thing. We're gonna give you a tour bus and a driver. You're not gonna make any money, which was fine. They gave us $10 a day. I mean, we're in our 20s, so sure. Just to be on the road with Joan Jett and having our own tour bus. What we didn't need any other money other than $10 a day to eat with. So that's how the whole thing started. We did a tour with Joan Jett originally, and it was kind of strange that I got to be close with Joan, and she wasn't close with anybody else in the band. Her and I talked a lot. And we always, she actually, I'm like the only one that actually has a photo of her and I together. She didn't take one with anybody else. But we were always, we just hit it off, her and I. And it was a wonderful thing. I can't say enough. She was one of the nicest people I've ever got to meet, regardless of what you might hear about her. She was absolutely wonderful. So the tour ends. And then the whole thing starts with Michael J. Fox and Joan Jett doing a movie. Next thing I know, we get a call. We still had to send our pictures in to the producer, but when we had the look back then, and that's how we got the thing. Yeah, there's the that photo is 30 years apart right there. Just so you know,
you both look good.
Yeah, so I went to see her again, and she was so happy to see me. 30 years difference, but I had seen her a bunch of times after the movie, and she was always so nice. But then I hadn't seen her for a long time. So this was actually, I believe, right before I joined Autograph. This photo. So it was great to reconnect with her after all these years.
Yeah, I wanted to show that, but continue with the story. Yeah.
Oh, so anyways, we go to the producer. They take us on. So here we are. We don't have a record. We don't have a record deal. We have nothing. But we're not only did we just get off touring with Joan Jett, we're going to be in a national motion picture now. So they fly us to Chicago. This is a great story. They fly us to Chicago, and we go to the Limelight in Chicago. There was, the Limelight in New York City, and then there was a Limelight in Chicago as well. We go there, and we're going to meet Michael J. Fox. This is the night before we're going to start shooting. And we go upstairs, and the Limelight has all these separate rooms. They bring Michael out to meet us, and Michael is a little tipsy. He's been there for a while, and his manager or somebody, people kept coming in and looking at Michael J. Fox sitting there, and he was getting very uncomfortable. He just wanted to be left alone. So back then, I resembled Nikki Sixx a lot with my hair spiked out, even facially. I didn't have, any facial hair or anything, but facially and everything, I kind of looked like him. I was told that a lot. So what they did is they put me in the room with Michael J. Fox at the other end of the couch. They said, "We need you to sit here so people will think that you're Nikki Sixx and leave Michael alone," which was the funniest thing. So I'm just like, I'm in this room at the opposite end of a couch, just sitting there for a little while so people wouldn't bother Michael. It was funny. But, so we do that. Next day we start filming. I'm at makeup at 4 a.m. They start, you go to the makeup trailer. This is all new. I've never been on a movie set. So you go to, they start, 3:30, 4 a.m. You're getting all ready. So they get us all done up. And we were supposed to look kind of like, I guess you say like a Kiss type band. We had that kind of makeup on. They put pancake white makeup on. Now, I was never tan back then to begin with, but so they made me even more pasty white than I was. So that's how that whole thing, after we were made up, we went and had breakfast. I sat with Michael always, we talked guitars and everything. He was so cool. And then we filmed our scene. That scene in the bar was done in Chicago. It wasn't done at the Agora like it's made to be. It was done at another club that was there. And they had a mobile recording truck from the record plant outside the building. So we were on stage, full makeup, and we played the song about 12 times, front to back. And they filmed us doing that.
Whose song was that?
It was the song that Kenny wrote
Kenny
for
Laguna.
Joan. Yeah,
Okay.
Kenny Laguna, her manager.
Yeah.
So they listened to all the takes. They picked the one they want, and then they let all the extras in. And all of a sudden, the place became a mob scene because, you know, everybody wanted to be in this movie, you know, Michael J. Fox and Joan. So they let all these people in. And that's the scene you'll see with people, you know, stage diving and going crazy. And that's where, you know, the scene where Michael walks into the bar. That was filmed separately. I remember we're filming a whole thing. And then they did a segment where they had just a few people over by the bar, and they were just filming Michael picking up that beer, drinking it, and putting it down. So yeah, it was a real trip to watch that whole segment being done on how they film things.
We should point out that this movie was written and directed by Paul Schrader, who is an incredible, accomplished filmmaker and writer. But he wrote Taxi Driver and Raging Bull, drafts at least of these movies co-wrote, and so he's had obviously incredible career. So at the time, do you even realize that somebody this important is directing you?
Oh yeah, we knew he was a big deal, and you know, he had a good cast in there. You actually mentioned his name is when you said a Spinal Tap thing, he was in it.
Right, Michael McKean.
Michael McKean's actually in the movie. So
yeah, he's a real musician as well, and he is in Joan's band with Michael. Yeah, Michael McKean.
The Bar Busters, I think they were called. The
Bar Busters. That's right. And it's also funny that for people who are fans of trivia, and if they watch this show, they probably are, is that the song "Light of Day" is written by Bruce Springsteen.
Yes,
and he still occasionally plays that in one of his 3-4 hour shows.
She plays it.
Yeah, he breaks it.
Yeah, she plays it still too, in her set. But yeah, so you know, we do this movie. You know, it was Michael's first serious role, so I think that had a lot to do with, you know, people didn't want to see Michael J. Fox be serious. They liked the Back to the Future, the Family Ties, the you know, those type of movies. Teen Werewolf. They were
he's coming right off Back to the Future at that point, and probably still on Family Ties. So this is a big...
he was. Yeah. So that's you're 100%. So going from that to from Back to the Future to a very serious role, you know, I think was tough for his fans to accept.
Yeah, I absolutely. And a lot of people thought, you know, Joan Jett as a leading lady was also, you know, a pretty big step. So this is 1986. Do you get to go to a premiere of this movie?
Yes, I did. So that was incredible. So we go, the movie, you know, I still have the invitations and everything. I posted it not too long ago. We go to New York City to the Hard Rock Cafe, and we're standing on the red carpet. Now, this is something that I've never witnessed in my life. We're standing on the red carpet. We get out of the limousine. The streets are filled. And on each side of the roped off area, you see photographers like crazy. And we get out. We're standing on this red carpet, getting ready to go in a building. And nobody's doing anything. We're just kind of standing there. And then somebody says, "Who are you guys?" And, you know, we're kind of, you know, frightened a little bit. We go, we're joined forces. And then some guy says, "Join forces. You guys are the Huns in the movie." And as soon as that person said that, 1 million flash bulbs went off, like like something I've never seen in my life from all different directions. You know, all these magazines and everything started flashing our picture. And it was like I had the bass player under, I had his arm under my arm. I'm going, you know, oh my God, this is insane. You know, it was just funny because I just never experienced anything like that.
Where was the premiere at?
Hard Rock Cafe in New York City.
Oh, did they show the movie somewhere, or this was more just a party kind of thing?
It was just a party.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was just an after. It was the movie party.
Right.
I don't know if there was. I'm sure there was. That might have been out in L.A. I'm sure probably that they did something like that. But this was the party, and going in there, I mean, the celebrities that were there, Carly Simon, Ron Wood. I even there were so many of them, but one of the funniest person was Paul Schaefer from the David Letterman show.
Sure.
And he had two girls. He had a girl on each arm, and he is just like he is on Letterman. When you meet him, he goes, "Hey, babe, how you doing?" You know, like that. That's how he was talking to me. I was dying. It was just like, oh my God, this is incredible.
Yeah, it's some moment. This is an example of what I'm talking about, though, because you must think, well, this is it. I'm in this movie. You know, I'm going to these big parties. You know, this is it. People, I'm playing lead guitar in this famous movie, and big things are got to be ahead. We'll jump ahead. We'll jump ahead to 1987. I've had a lot of people on this show who've been involved with Ozzy Osbourne. I've had a lot of audition stories. Some good, some not so good, some almost tragic. George Lynch comes to mind.
Yeah.
You can watch some of these people's interviews and stories, but there were some that I didn't realize. Amir Derak auditioned. Yeah. There's so many people at different times. Ozzy had made moves. Obviously, Randy Rhoads, when he passed away, he was forced to make a move. So at this point, they're finishing up their relationship with Jakey Lee.
Yes.
And it's time to find the next guitar player for Ozzy. You've told the story a lot, so I don't want to keep you here all day.
I don't mind. It's a great story.
Tell me how you first get involved.
Well, first off, I'll say that they had already started working with Zakk. They had already, Mark Weiss, the photographer, had hooked them up. And so they were already kind of working with him a little bit. But I was endorsed by Kramer Guitars in the 80s, which was the biggest guitar company there was.
And it was huge because you weren't a name brand just yet, and you weren't in a band that was a name brand. So to have
I had a full-on endorsement with them because the president of Kramer, Dennis Berardi, saw me play, and he loved the way I played. And Floyd Rose, the guy that invented the Floyd Rose tremolo, saw me play. He's the one that told Dennis Berardi about me. Then Dennis Berardi came out and saw. So they offered me a full deal. I gave me countless guitars. I mean, I can't even tell you. I would do anything to have all those guitars back.
Oh, I can imagine. Didn't Floyd Rose give you the first left-handed Floyd Rose?
No, he gave me a prototype of a right-handed one, and I had to make it left-handed. So in other words, when I got my endorsement from the company, they didn't even make a left-handed Floyd Rose. So I still have that guitar.
That's the guitar.
Yeah, that's the guitar that's in the movie with Michael J. Fox. That's the guitar I auditioned with Ozzy. That's the guitar I played with Geezer Butler. All that stuff. That guitar I still own, but that is a right-handed Floyd. I had to bring it to a machine shop and have a guy drill it with a carbide bit to get through the case-hardened steel, just so I could get an arm screwed onto the other side of the thing. But so they take me on. They want to manage me, Kramer Guitars. They believed in me like crazy. They send my tape out to Sharon Osbourne. They get wind of it. That they find out that Jakey Lee's out. Sharon Osbourne contacts them and says, I want to see this guy. So they called me. I'll never forget it. A Wednesday afternoon. It was a Wednesday morning. I get a phone call from Kramer. And they go, Jimmy, we sent your tape to Sharon Osbourne and she loves it. You're going to LA to audition for Ozzy. And I went, oh my God, really? I go, when? I go, next week or something? And they go, no, right now. You have a plane ticket booked. You have to leave right now. It was like, it's like, what? Really? It was like, really? Like right now? And but I made it. I got on that plane, got to LA. And when I got there, I had to go rehearse right away. They wanted to see me right away. So I went and rehearsed with Randy Castillo and Phil Suzanne right away. And while I was auditioning, Sharon Osbourne sat and watched me play. Because I guess she wanted to see that if what she saw in the video was real, or if she just, blew money on a plane ticket, But so I played and I did great with those guys. Absolutely killer. And then Sharon said to me, she goes, okay, she goes, I want you to play with Ozzy tomorrow. Now, not everybody got to play with Ozzy because Ozzy wasn't going to sit through all these guitar players while they were weeding them out. Only a very select few got to do it. So the next day, they pick me up. I go to the sound stage. Now, this is a great story. You got time for a story? This is
we got time. Yeah, it's called wasting time. What else do we have to do?
That's true. So I'm not sure who this guy was. There was a guitar player, one other guitar player, blonde-haired guy from Sweden. I have no idea who he was, but he was going to audition with Ozzy as well, the two of us. So he's on stage. He goes up before me. And when he's on stage, I don't know if it was from being from Sweden or whatever. Anyways, they're doing Flying High again. I'm sitting in the audience watching this with Sharon. I'm sitting next to Sharon. And the kid's doing Flying High again. And to me, Flying High is a solo, sort of like Turn Up the Radio. A solo you don't change.
Signature.
It's a very recognizable solo. So when it came time to doing Randy Rhoads' two-handed tapping segment, where he's been in the descending line, this kid decides, I don't know if it's because he was from Sweden and Yngwie was starting to get big, this guy was sweeping arpeggios through that, going blue, 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 that type of thing, thinking that what he was doing might be creative. Well, Ozzy flipped out and was standing behind the kid, making like he was strangling him like this, and making like he was stabbing him with a dagger. And then when the kid turned, Ozzy gave him the thumbs up like this, hey, you're doing a great job. But so I'm just sitting watching all this, and I'm going like, oh my God, I have to go up and play now, So this kid's done. They get rid of him. They have him leave the room, and then I go up. So I after seeing all that, I kind of kept my eye on Ozzy a little bit, but the first song I went up and did was I Don't Know. So I go up and I start playing, and I had a really good groove going with the guys. So we started it, and I know you're familiar. You've seen Ozzy a million times, but so he, how he stands there, he's got his hand on the mic. Then he starts doing the rocking thing. He starts going back and forth like this. He started doing that, like really getting into it. And then when I did the solo, he got right down in front of the amplifier and listened to me play. And it went over great. I did 4 songs, I believe 4 or 5 tunes, and then I had to do a guitar solo by myself. And when I got done, Ozzy and Sharon sat me down and said, it's between you and Zakk. And knowing how Sharon is and knowing how Ozzy is, if that wasn't the case, they wouldn't have said it. There was no reason for them to just say that. So I believed them. And in fact, they took me out to dinner to this very expensive restaurant right afterwards. It was me, Sharon, and Ozzy, and Randy and Phil. We went to this really exclusive place in LA. Doctors and lawyers all in suits and, whatever. In comes Ozzy with his shaved head, and, it was pretty amazing. But then I went back to Ozzy's hotel or bungalow, whatever he was renting on Sunset Strip. And I met Amy, his youngest daughter, who was not in the Osbourne.
Yeah, she was the one who chose to keep a private life.
Yeah, she's the one that did not go on to the Osbourne show. And that's that was the whole thing. So I think Randy took me out to I think it was either the Troubadour or the Rainbow that night. And I ran into my good friend Chris Impellitteri. I hadn't seen him in ages, so that was really cool. And then I went back to the hotel, and the next morning I got a phone call that I was going home. They must have decided to stay. But during that time, Zakk was there. Zakk, all of a sudden I get a knock on my hotel room door, and Zakk, I open the door, there's Zakk Wylde, a very different looking Zakk than you're used to seeing him now, obviously. A very young Zakk, and he was holding two sodas, two Coca-Colas. He had one for me and one for him. And he wanted to jam with me. He wanted to see what I played like, because I guess he had heard.
Well,
so
Zakk was an East Coast guy too. You're from Connecticut, and Zakk was from Jersey, I believe. So yeah,
yes, he was. Yeah. So he comes to the room. He has one of those Schultz Rockmans, the thing that Tom Schultz from Boston invented. We both put on a set of headphones and we started playing. And I was all, warmed up and, did a lot of cool stuff. And I know I impressed Zakk a lot because he mentions me in articles. As a matter of fact, there was something I have where he talks about my picking technique. And, but I remember a friend of mine out in LA, after he got the gig, he was doing a guitar clinic at one of the big shops. And apparently he mentioned, they were talking about the audition, and Zakk said, well, there was this guitar player that I heard play named Jimi Bell. And after hearing him play, I didn't think I had the gig, which was very big of him to say. I thought that was very cool. But, I love Zakk's playing anyway. I think he's exactly what that band needed. I actually had somebody, believe it or not, tell me that it's a possibility that I didn't get the gig because I was left-handed. Kookier things might have happened, because him and Tony Iommi, Ozzy and Tony hated each other then. So.
Yes. And with Sharon making decisions, that's anything could be possible. I mean, from a haircut to a style to whatever, they had an idea. So anything is possible. So here we are. We talk about all these almost moments. This is one, and
it's a big one too.
A big one. And so talk about the years after that, because I know you go into a bit of a depression and
oh yeah, well, it wasn't too long, I got to be honest. So that here I am, I was devastated about that. They didn't tell me I didn't have the gig either. And the only way that I found out was just through media, finding out that Zakk was the new guitarist. But
crazy.
A few months go by, and I get my phone rings, and I pick it up, and there's an English gentleman, a gentleman with an English accent, on the other line. And he goes, "Is this Jimmy?" And I said, "Yes." He goes, "Hi, this is Terrence Butler." And I'm going, "Terrence Butler," and I said, he says, "I got your video from Sharon Osbourne, and I'm doing a new project, and I'd like to see have you come out." And I'm going like, and then all of a sudden the light bulb went off, and I go, "Oh my God, this is Geezer Butler from Black Sabbath." I go, this guy's like my favorite bass player in the world. So yeah, the next thing I know, I'm flying to St. Louis, where Geezer had a house. Possibly, I want to say that his wife had family there, Gloria. I think Gloria had some family there. So they had a house in St. Louis, and of course a house in Birmingham. So I went to St. Louis. We did a couple things, flew home. Next thing I know, I'm flying to London. And we were with a big agency that Grim Reaper was with, in fact, called Smallwood Taylor, I believe. They managed a lot of the bands back then. And Geezer, we were on, this was an incredible situation because here I am rehearsing. I'm getting paid a weekly salary and a daily per diem just to practice with Geezer. I mean, that's unheard of nowadays. It's like usually you're fending for yourself, but I mean, this is, I'm sitting here making money. So yeah, I do all this stuff. I'm over in England. This went back and forth a couple times. I went over there, came home, went back. We did a few videos, live videos though. They weren't like where we recorded the track and then played to a video. These were like we were playing live. Mm-hmm. And there's a couple of those on YouTube actually. And so we showcase. And we get signed. I believe the label was MCA Records. Someone from MCA signed us. So we're getting ready to go do all this stuff. And I get a phone call from Gloria. And she says, "Jimmy, I have bad news." She goes, "The person who signed you from MCA Records got let go, fired, whatever. He got caught doing something bad in the company. So all of his projects were dropped, and including anything new. But then she said, we're gonna continue to shop for something, but nothing ever came about. So while I'm over there in the rehearsal room, we're rehearsing in just outside of Brighton. And this old Air Force base, it was an old English Air Force base that they turned into rehearsal rooms. You stayed there, you ate there. Geezer comes to me in the room and says, "Jimmy, do you have any songs that are similar to a Black Sabbath song?" And I said, "Yeah, I do, actually." I said, "I've been working on this track." I said, "In fact, I have a title for it." I don't write lyrics. I said, "But I came up with this title. I thought it sounded pretty cool. Master of Insanity." And I play him the song. We learn it. We record it. Comes out great. So I go home, and about 1992 or 93, I get a phone call. I believe it was 92. I get a phone call from Gloria Butler again. And she says, "Jimmy, as you know, as you probably heard, Black Sabbath is getting back together with Ronnie Dio singing. And I have great news. They're going to use your song, Master of Insanity." And I said, so I'm just like over the moon excited, just thrilled. She goes, "But we have one problem." She goes, "We can't give you songwriting credit." She goes, "Tony Iommi would never let a song from another guitar player on a Black Sabbath record. So we have to say Geezer wrote the song." He goes, you will be credited in Geezer's special thanks, and we will pay you for the song at the end of the tour. So what was I going to say? You know, I was extremely disappointed.
Yeah.
But you know, it was still an honor to have that done.
And they did take care of you, I guess.
No,
Mm.
no, I never got paid.
Wow.
Yeah, no, never received a dime. I am in Geezer's special thanks, but I never received anything for it, which was kind of surprising because the song was in all the reviews. It was mentioned as one of a really good track, you know, when they reviewed the record, and they played the song live. So it wasn't that it was just a filler song on the set. It was a song that they were included into their live show. I even went to see him play a couple times, and I was just standing there, and then all of a sudden they start playing Master of Insanity, and I'm looking up the stage, and I'm going, I can't believe I wrote a song that Ronnie James Dio was singing. I'm watching Ronnie James Dio singing a song that I wrote, and Black Sabbath performing it, and I'm just like, I just can't believe this. So, you know, I've done countless interviews about Black Sabbath throughout my career. So many of them. There's books, so many books on Black Sabbath that I'm written up in. And, you know, I always tell that story, but, you know, I'm a very honest person. I don't tell lies. So, I mean, I could tell people 1,000, you know, till I'm blue in the face that I wrote the song. Most people will believe me because that's kind of a far-fetched thing to go around telling people that I wrote a song that's on a Black Sabbath record. If you know, but finally, Ronnie, there was a book written that Ronnie was interviewed for. It was about Ronnie Dio, and Ronnie says it right in the book that I wrote the song, and that Geezer wrote the lyrics, and that I wrote the music for this song. So I'm like, I was thrilled.
A little bit of vindication. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I was just like so happy that it finally got out there. Now I have a copy of the page. I go, see, look.
Yeah, this is what I got. Jimmy, I'm gonna have to have you come back because we didn't get into House of Lords. There's so many other things to talk about. So we have to do it again. Fortunately, that's a good thing that we get to talk some more.
Oh, I love doing your show. I got to tell you, a lot of people like to do part twos, so that's not an issue with me. It'd be an honor to come back.
I think follow-ups are great, and maybe we'll do it in person on the road somewhere that I'm sure we'll cross paths. I want to wrap this up, though, because so many people are interested in your session work, and you play so many different things. But the one that everyone loves is the wrestling. You put a post up not too long ago about some of the wrestling themes you played on, and people were going crazy trying to figure out which ones. Some of them you probably don't even remember. You recorded it. Now, you live in Connecticut, and the WWE is based out of Connecticut. Jim Johnston is he writes all those songs, I think, right?
Yeah, he was there. He's not there anymore as of 2015. That's when my time stopped. But from I met a guy at a club I was playing. I was performing at a club, and the guy, he was a doorman. His name is Mikkel. And when I got done playing, he goes, "Man, I like your playing a lot." He goes, "You would do good down where I work at my other job." I go, "Well, where do you work?" He goes, "At the WWE." And I flipped out because I was always a wrestling fan from back in the 80s. I was a huge fan. So I brought my promo pack down. The next day, after he gave it to the guy, I got a phone call from Jim Johnston. Next day, I'm down there at the WWE. And I started a long relationship with this guy. Anytime they needed Wylde guitar playing or something really heavy done, they would call me. And he loved it because I was always available. Because I live my whole life is music, recording tracks, doing stuff, whatever. So, he called me anytime. And usually it was always on a Monday, like a Monday morning. Jimmy, come down because I got to get this theme done for Monday Night Raw. So I'd come down, play on the wrestler's track, and then next thing I go home and I'm watching WWE. Here I come on the TV. You know, it's like, oh my God, this is insane.
Instant gratification. Yeah, it's a quick turnaround. There's lots of wrestlers. They all have a theme, and they've got to crank it out. Are there any that stand out to you?
Geez, I did so many of them. I know I did. I remember I did something for Generation X one time. Oh, Bret Hart. When Bret Hart, matter of fact, his I don't know if it's his niece Natalia still does that. Still comes out with the theme I played on, Natalia Hart.
Yeah, it's a Hart Foundation family song or something, I believe. And and I knew you had played on that one.
Oh, the Miz. I did the Miz. I did his original theme. I think I did something on one of Randy Orton's things, on a remake of something. But there's like countless. A lot of the wrestlers aren't even, obviously not there anymore. But I did TV shows too, like pay-per-view shows. Mm-hmm. So I played on the pay-per-view things. I did for a while there. There was the women's champion, Marlena, was her name, and I did her theme song. She came out to my thing, and yeah, there's so many. The Diva Search I play. I mean, countless. It was funny the other day. I happened to go and find all my pay stubs from the WWE because you have to sign off. I would go down there and they would pay me, a flat fee, but you had to sign a contract that you don't have any rights. There's
no royalties in this, right?
Royalties, yeah.
But you can crank these things out, and a great gig to have, and sort of a fun piece of history. There's so many of these old, wrestling is on TV all the time now. The old stuff too. There's probably countless amounts of your work being played with some people that we wouldn't even remember their names.
Yeah, I'm on a few of the albums. How they release the studio the theme song records.
Yeah,
I've got a couple of those that I'm on. So yeah, it's been a great life. It's most people would have quit and given up. I just have I'm not wound like most people. I just have this drive that I've had so many doors. I always say this, doors open, they shut, open, shut. I've had so much of that normally that would have made somebody, just say, "Oh, to hell with this. I can't deal with this anymore." Well, that drove me even more crazy that I had to keep going. I said, I know I'm going to push through something, Well,
your career, the timeline that shows, all these opportunities and all these things. And then in the 2000s, things like House of Lords come along. You have a long career with them, lots of recordings and things. Autograph comes along, other things. And I think people are now looking back at some of your other work. And I think that's one of the great things about these interviews. Maybe you weren't a household name, but I think you're finally getting some of your due. If you're a fan of guitar playing, people can just click on YouTube and see it and realize that this is that you have something special. Like I said, it's big shoes to fill for Steve Lynch in Autograph, and those fans get to see you play live, and all for that I've seen have very positive reviews, including Steve himself. So it's great that you don't give up. You're still a young man. You still got a lot more to do.
And I hope so. That's the reason I walk 12 miles a day, to try and stay in halfway decent shape to do that. I still play guitar all the time, nonstop. I constantly writing songs. I'm like I said, I'm right in the middle of doing one right now, and yeah, I mean, it's so funny. House of Lords just released their new record too on September. I've done 9 records with them so far. And James Christian, the singer, called me the other day. Now the record just came out in September, and he just says, Jimmy, I want to get a head start for the next record for 2023. And he says, can you? And I mean, the record just came out 2 months ago. So I've written so many songs that I sent him 21 tracks already that I already had done. And then I wrote a couple more here already. So it's kind of like, this is what I do. I dig it, you know?
It's good to be busy. It takes a special type of person to be in that studio when cranking it out. You do that. We'll remind everybody that Autograph's current record Beyond is available everywhere. You can go to Jimmy's website, jimmybell.com. Jimmy spelled like Jimi Hendrix, Jimi. You can check out all those things. Follow him on social media. You get an idea of what he's up to. Jimmy, thank you so much. We barely scratched.
And one other, and autographband.net.
Autographband.net.
Yeah, .net.
Yeah, so people can come and see out on the road this year. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of fun opportunities. Thank you so much, Jimmy.
Jason, it's been a pleasure, and let's do another one.
Yeah, we'll have to follow up, and thank you to everyone for watching. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, all those kind of important things. And